Here's Lonny. Yeah.
Howdy. Welcome. Normally, can we hear? Are we ready?
Yeah.
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 Okay, fantastic. Normally, my wife introduces and talks because it is because of my wife and actually her bravery that inspired me to stand once again for our country. But we have a newborn, and right now, the newborn has called, and we've had a lot of challenges and complications which I might get into a moment, which actually helps revitalize you whenever you have a new child in the world. And I've been doing this for 32 years, and I think hopefully this is our last child. But with that, I apologize that if she can break away, then she'll come and speak. But other than that, I'll try and do my best to do her part. And thank you once again for having me. My name is Lonny Ray Williams, and I'm the national chairman of the Independent American Patriots. We were formerly the Independent American Party, a national party for 25 years. And to get to what happened and why we changed and all that, and we'll give a little bit of an origin story about where my wife and I's journey started, and that came back in the pandemic, when many of us became awake, and what we recognized around us, we were people of faith, and what we recognized was that we were not allowed to go to our church. We were not allowed to worship in the manner that we would, but yet all sorts of institutions were open, bars and liquor stores and other things like that, because they were deemed essential. But yet our faith wasn't deemed essential. I apologize. You guys are going to be competing with my farm here. I do have a homestead, and my roosters like to heckle me from time to time. But we also teach self-sufficiency, and this is part of my life. So I apologize if I'm competing with the crowd over here who don't like what I'm saying here. So first off, during the pandemic, my wife and I were struggling with what we were seeing. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. I'm 30 miles or less from the Canadian border, in one of the most rural parts in America. My county is one of the poorest and most rural in Washington State. And I think there's roughly 7,000 people in the entire county spread out across mountains. And even here, our rights were stripped from us. Even here, we had neighbor pitched against neighbor as businesses would turn other businesses in so that they could stay open and get businesses. We had our wonderful community torn apart by divisiveness and who was willing to bow down and who was not. Who was willing to put a mask on, or who was willing to buy whatever was said without data, and who was looking at the data saying something's not right here. Either way, our whole community, our family was split apart. And to this day, there are family members which I love, which we don't talk anymore. And this is not just my story. This is the story of America. We have neighbors that we love and care for, but we just don't see eye to eye anymore. We have church members, family members across the entire country. We were once together, but yeah, look what happened to us and continues to divide us even now. Do we want to believe the scientific data that's now showing the challenges and deficiencies in what happened? Or do we want to continue to buy the old narrative? In either case, this is what propelled me and my wife forward and said, we can't let this stand. And we didn't know what to do. And we called and looked for all sorts of organizations around here, and nobody has anything rural, and there just wasn't anything. So what we decided to do, we had a passion towards history, and we decided just to start our monthly publication, the pamphlet. We've been doing this for 4 years now. And essentially all we do is we tell the stories of little known people like Sybil Ludington, a 16-year-old girl who rode twice as far as Paul Revere to save her country. Not to minimize Paul, but we want to tell America stories from common, average, everyday people that they can relate to, because they need to get in touch with their history, because once they understand their history, they will understand where their rights come from. They will understand that this cabal or whatever it is that is taking hold of our country wants to strip us of our rights and wants to divide us into classes and categories where we fight once amongst each other, and the party system is exactly that system. Now, we didn't understand that. We didn't know what was broken in our country. We just knew something was broken. Now, I'm an old infantry soldier. I served in the Presidential Honor Guard, and I was honored to be in Washington, D.C. for 4 years and walk amongst the tombs of many soldiers who had died. I put many of those soldiers in the ground. And I got to tell you, when you run every morning in formation through that boneyard and you got thousands of these soldiers, thousands of these brethren standing up and saying, do something right for this country, make it count. That takes a toll on me. And I've tried to carry that vision forward in my life and everything I've done. And as all human beings, we're all human and we stumble, but it's how we get back up. It's how we get back on that horse. It's how we keep trying to fight against this thing that's trying to rid us of our rights. And so we started this pamphlet just simply for our local town of 1,000 people, not thinking that anything would happen. Well, let me tell you, we started going to other counties. Now the pamphlet went to all 50 states. And at last count, I haven't checked in a while, 63 countries across the nation check out our pamphlet and read what our founding fathers have to say about liberty and freedom. The original stories from the mouths of the people themselves, if we only turn our hearts and minds to those people, you would understand a history that I did not understand. It wasn't based on political parties. They hated political parties. George Washington himself, in his farewell address, warned us all, stay away from political parties because that's the government that we left behind. That's the English system. The Whigs, the Tories, they tore each other to pieces. The Parliament was just as much, if not more, as responsible for our woes and the corporations as it was the king. It's the same system we have going on right now. Needless to say, that pamphlet turned into speaking, and people asked, hey, you need to run for office. So a couple of years ago, I ran for a state legislature in Washington State as a Republican, thinking that here's my people. These guys always say liberty and freedom and representation. And what I didn't understand, even though writing about it, was how entrenched that this political party system is in our country. And no matter what you believe in and what your personal principles and convictions are as a human being on how much you love your nation, the political party system doesn't care about that. They're inherently designed for self-preservation. And just like George Washington warned us, the party will gain the representation and the people will lose it. And that's the system that we have right now. Well, when I took over as national chairman for the Independent American Party, we had a lot of challenges in our own organization. The same challenges that exist in any other political party, because what does political parties invite? They invite someone to come along and say, I'm the man or woman who has the plan. And we will be 100% successful if we get everybody to do the plan. Now, that's not free choice. That's not liberty. But that's how parties and organizations and systems operate. And we've enslaved our populace to these systems. Because wherever you have a party represented, you inherently don't have the people represented. So in my district, this is the largest geographical district in Washington State. It's the 11th largest geographically in the nation. Covers 7 counties. It's absolutely massive. How can a person possibly represent? Well, I committed to have a town hall in every single one of those counties every single month so that people have access to that. Well, that's balderdash. The people, the representatives say that's just not how things work around here. And the question that I went through in every single one of these counties in front of these Republican boards, will you do everything that the party wants? And my answer was no. I will represent my constituents and I'll vote the way they want me to vote. And I won't do anything they don't want me to do. That's what our government's about. And because of that, I didn't pick up a single endorsement. Not that I really care, but it opened my eyes and ears to what was really going on in this country, even in this rural area, in the middle of nowhere, regardless of what you believe in your political sphere. I had to realign everything dramatically. Along this campaign, I ran into a realtor who was trying to help out Republicans, got kicked out of their meeting. He was surveying people, trying to find out their political affiliation, and he's willing to canvass and stand up for good people, but because he wouldn't bow to the party, he was ran out. But anyway, in his survey, there was 25% of the people, no, we're a conservative area, who would only admit to leaning towards Republican. Now, don't feel bad. The 35% would only admit to even leaning Democrat. The vast majority of everybody else in this wonderful acreage that you see all over here is independents. And they're so disgusted by either side, they won't participate in that political system because they don't want to join a party where someone's going to stab you in the back. Someone's going to slap you upside the head. Someone's going to accuse your family of doing things that they don't do, all for positioning and power. That is anti-American, and that's the system we've embraced, and that's why we have all these problems. So what the Independent American Party, for years we had called ourselves the anti-party party, because we figured, well, you have to become a political party to participate in the system. Well, what we didn't realize, and our Secretary of State that just spoke to this could really speak to this, was that throughout the entire state or country, there are 50 different sets of regulations for political parties to operate. There are 50 different sets of obstacles that independent or third parties must go through to even qualify as minor party status to get their candidates possibly on the ballot. There's signatures and yearly things, and every state has a different myriad of complicated things. Now, these things are not for the Republican and Democratic parties. They're for all the other parties. Now, this is not a system of fairness, but the legislators on both sides who benefit from the current system like it that way. So what we discovered was in the vast majority of cases across the entire country, you have a better chance of getting elected as an independent as you do a third-party candidate, because it's easier. If you have the support of the people behind you, it's just easier. And we also found that by operating as a political party throughout the country, there are so many rules and regulations throughout each state that hinder you that it's much easier to become a private organization that just wants to do good in their country and support independent-minded people. So that's what we decided to do, and it was a huge step to walk away from that. But we understood that to truly become an independent American who could vote on our principles, well, we had to walk away. We had to demonstrate to the rest of the country that the path forward as a political party is to leave the party system behind. And that was essentially our journey. And this brings me back to where we are here. Now, one of the things that, first off, thank you so much, Stuart, for your kindness and your friendship and leadership and bringing people together across the country in the spirit of our ancestors. Togetherness. We were not supposed to be a divided people. Now, certainly we were 13 colonies who could stand each other in some regards, but what we came together on was our liberty and freedom. And, you know, I recently, in my latest publication, these are all available online for free, by the way, www.thepamphlet.net. And Tamimend, my latest publication, talks about Saint Tamimend, or this chief Indian king. Doesn't even do his justice to say that. There's a man who was our patron saint in America who we don't even talk about anymore. Him and William Penn came together and founded Philadelphia in the spirit of brotherly love. Now, we know what brotherly love is, at least we think we do, but when you read the stories about these people and you actually realize that William Penn said, forget the king's law. I'm doing away with all the law, except for murder and I think it was theft. There's two laws, or treason. See, murder and treason, 2 laws. And what we're going to do is the people themselves come up with their laws. The people themselves, the tribes, everyone's equal. And they signed this great treaty that was revered amongst the natives. And it was a great experiment because William Penn truly wanted to lean on his biblical experience and say, look, all men are created by this great creator. We're all equal. Let's come together as one people in this land. One people, and have freedom of thought, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, and rule ourselves in brotherly love and harmony. And we did that in this nation. We actually had that in this country. And that's what I'm fighting to come back for. That's what the Independent American Patriots are now fighting for, to bring back that spirit of brotherly love, to bring us all back together and rule ourselves independently as just organic institutions of human beings as God intended, our great creator. Which there's room for all sorts of discourse in that. We should not run from this. We should embrace this and talk about these great things. And that's what the Independent American Patriots now do. And that's now where we're heading. And we've transformed from an organization where me at the top gets to say, well, this is what we're doing, to say, no, I'm a public servant. I am your servant. I'm here to help each and every one of my members. So if somebody wants to pick up trash in Chattanooga, Tennessee, great. Let's see how we can make that happen. If someone wants to plant trees, or if someone wants to get an independent school board elected so that we can be responsive to the people, let's do it. This is how we take back our communities, by coming back together, regardless of all the ways they want to divide us, to become truly independent American patriots that love our country, that love each other. And there's so many ways that I could go on about this, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But just to be clear for everyone, I'm just a homesteader who has a knack for raising pigs. But understand that George Washington grew cannabis, and a few of our founding fathers were bootleggers. Yet, like our founding generation, context is everything. I stand up against mandates. I stand up against unconstitutional rights. I stand up for parents' rights to be the primary stakeholder and guide of their children, to raise their children to be all that they can possibly be, for people to have freedom of conscience and work, for our divine creator within them to express themselves. And these are the things that every American should have. I believe that every one of us wants to be the captain of our own ship and destiny, as we are entitled to by our great creator, to chart our own course, to leave this place a better place if we can manage it. And some of us, we can just barely survive. But if we can all come together in that spirit of brotherly love, that spirit of tamamend, that spirit of harmony, we can conquer this great divide that lies ahead of us. And where we may be few, we are still many. Our numbers and all the things that we do throughout each other are great. And we can change this. And the way forward is to abandon the political party system and go back to the way our founding fathers gave us this nation. We need to understand that our first government was not just a caretaker government. It was a confederation, and the colonies themselves were based on rights. They had these rights that came first, amongst all things. There's value in that system. And that's why half of our founding fathers said, well, look, we need this Bill of Rights in addition to enshrine our rights. And everyone's like, well, everyone knows what they are. We don't need to say what they are. They're just inalienable rights. Well, now we know 250 odd years later that we do need to write these down, because there's ignorance in this world. And the ignorance is how they win. And we need to educate people. We need to educate people in all classes, especially those who are being taken advantage of by any sort of political spectrum, the right, left, indifferent, and give them their independence back. The war for independence was the war for independence of the human soul. We ourselves should be able to come together as good men and women of this country, truly independent Americans who love the founding vision of our fathers, and say, we can get behind this great experiment, as William Penn said, this great experiment in letting all humanity be truly what they are, with given just the simple guide rails of you can't influence somebody else's liberty. Other than that, go be do. And that's what we're all about. And wherever there is an institution, it can be subjected to bad things. One of my prized collections is this old ruler I've had since I was a kid from Coca-Cola, that on the back says the golden rule. Who would think that Coca-Cola would print something like that now? All of these institutions could do something good, can also do something bad. And whatever we organize for good, some bad person can come and take that over and do bad things. And that's what happens in the political party system. And so when we organize into organic units that puts members and people first and lets them drive what truly is being done, I think that's the vision of our founding fathers. And I think that's what the independent American patriots are now championing, is a return to that vision of our community, wherever that may be, let's revisit that. And my last thing I'd like to say is considering where you are, my brothers and sisters, right now on the hallowed ground that you are now sitting on. 249 years ago, blood was spilt on that very ground. People died for their right to raise their family in their own ways, traditions, and religions. We owe it to them to make it great. So my challenge to all of us, next year that is 250. That's a quarter of a millennium of the fight for freedom. How are we going to make that great? How are we going to make this year the championship year where we will be able to say to everyone else next year at 250 years, my brothers and sisters who are all dead and who died for this cause. Some of my ancestors. We still hold these truths to be self-evident. And our liberty and freedom is not for sale, and we will not abandon these principles, and we will carry that torch of liberty. Let us do that, my friends. Let us please move forward and live together in the spirit of Saint Tamimend, our patron saint we don't know anything about, William Penn, these great founding fathers who said, let us live together as one people. Let us love one another. And let's put this hatred and garbage beside, and let's solve our problems. And anyone who wants to divide us, let's kick them out. Let's throw them out. Let's get independent Americans who have a true independent American spirit in. Because I can guarantee you right now with Washington State, the Washington State Republican Convention going on right now in Spokane. These guys are making their plan to do what they got to do. The Democrats are going to make their plan to do what they're going to do. Where's you? Where's your representation in that? You and I need to get together and make our plan on how America is going to be represented. Because I can guarantee you the political party system does not represent them. They just represent votes, money. Anyway, I'll go on another time, but thank you for your time. And God bless you, Stuart, and your organization. And I hope that we can continue to work together to build bridges and bring this country back together, one person at a time to the sanity table, because there's too much collusion, and we need to return to common sense. And Thomas Paine had a good recipe for that, and I think everyone ought to read that. God bless y'all.
Thank you, Lonnie.